back here with Dr. Rodney Van Pelt. How you doing, Rodney?
I'm doing real good, Steve. Thank you. Good to be here.
Okay, so let's talk about diabetes, specifically on this first discussion. Let's talk about what causes diabetes, and then we'll get into some other ones. So as always, if you guys have questions or you have ideas or thoughts or anything about this topic, please leave them in the comment section. We will get back to you. So give us your response and interact with this so that we can kind of take this in the direction that you want it to go. Leave those responses and we'll get back to you. So, Dr. Rodney, we've talked a lot about, and I kind of know where this is going, but we've talked about a lot of things, but not specifically on the cause of diabetes. So, I hand this off to you. Tell us about the cause of diabetes.
Well, right. And see, it's crucial that we understand this. Every viewer, every viewer needs to understand this. And if you say why, it's because this is, in fact, a pandemic, if you will. This is of just massive proportions going on in the United States and across the developed world. Really 70% of Americans now. We're shooting this in the United States, and I know that there are viewers from other countries, and we welcome you. This is a problem that can occur anywhere, and is at probably similar proportions in most developed countries. So anyway, in the United States, 70% of us are overweight or obese.
Hmm.
Okay, and half of our population has diabetes. Wow, this is
Wow.
this is just massive. Okay, and it's growing fast. Like these numbers are growing. Our country's getting fatter and fatter, as a nation, and we're getting more and more diabetes too. And so, as you can kind of gather already, they are associated with each other, obesity and diabetes. Now, there are two types of diabetes. What used to be called childhood onset diabetes. We don't call it that anymore, but or versus adult onset diabetes. We call them mostly diabetes type 1, diabetes type 2. Type 1 is an autoimmune disease, and it has to do with a lack of insulin, which results in high blood sugars. We're talking about type 2 diabetes. That's the one that's going on in massive proportions. Some refer to it as diabesity. These two things are so closely associated with each other, diabetes and obesity, that it's referred to by some as diabesity. And it's a combination of obesity, and here we're specifically meaning belly fat. I tell you what, that weight we carry right around our middle, that is the most troublesome kind. So it's a combination of belly fat and insulin resistance. Those two things go together. I'm telling you, you can tell if you have insulin resistance, if you have belly fat, if you're wide around your middle, you have insulin resistance. Now, some would say, does that mean if I'm skinny that I don't have diabetes and I don't have belly fat if I'm thin? And the answer actually is no. There's a thing that is referred to with the acronym TOFI, TOFI, which stands for thin on the outside, fat on the inside. And so it's possible for me to be pretty slender, but have fat inside my abdomen around my organs. That abdominal fat can still be in there. About 25% of thin people actually have TOFI. So we have to watch out for it. And we'll talk in a future video about what are the ways to diagnose it? But a simple way is to look down and just take a look at my middle, you know, and and then the question is, where does this come from? Like, how did our nation get here to this place of being, where we get challenged by another nation now and then, but the US wants to lead the pack. We are near the top. If you're looking for the fattest, sickest nation on earth, US, we are a challenger for that for that title. And that's not a good thing. How did we get here? Our country has championed for 50 years or more, really, a diet that's high in carbohydrates and low in fat. And we have talked about that kind of diet before in different videos. It's a I would submit it's not a healthy diet. There's good evidence that that is not that it's not good. And our nation is the biggest, experiment, if you will, to demonstrate how toxic it is. But so the average American is eating 133 pounds of flour per year. Okay, that's a lot. Flour is carbohydrate. It's worse than sugar in its effect, in its glycemic effect. That is, its effect on blood sugar, on making our blood sugar soar and on stimulating insulin in our bodies. It's worse than sugar. Anyway, we eat a ton of flour. The average American eats 152 pounds of sugar. Again, obviously, that's carbohydrate. That's in a year. And that is a lot. Okay, combine those two, right? And we have just under, 300 pounds of, just almost pure carbohydrate that we're ingesting every year. Our bodies are just struggling to deal with that load. And what our body does is it gets fat, it gets fatty liver, and we get heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, strokes. They kind of all fall in line under this. And so this is the primary cause of diabetes, really it's a toxic diet, that has a lot of carbohydrate, very little fat, and what fat we do eat is toxic, right? A lot of that is toxic fat from processed food, and then there's just the other deficiencies of nutrients that we have because there's so much processed food being eaten in the U.S. So we've got, there's a lot of things that stack up then. The processed foods, toxic fats, high carbohydrate diet, and food additives, the preservatives and all, these are all sowing into the condition of our bodies that want to promote getting fat, really, and sick, and specifically the promotion of diabetes.
Wow. So that's a lot of flour. And you said that's the average American. So
Mhm.
I can only wonder at not just the middle, but the extreme. So you said the average was a mind blowing amount of poundage that the average person is making or eating.
Yes.
So I can only imagine what, people on this end that are bringing that average up, I can only imagine how much they're eating and how much sugar and so on. And you're saying half of this country is type 2 diabetic. Is that right?
Yeah, probably type 1 and type 2 combined.
Okay.
But yes, the type 1 is much smaller proportion. I don't know the
Is
exact proportions of
I
these
mean,
two,
type
but
type 2 is like you pretty much did it to yourself, right?
Yeah, that's true. But I'll tell you what, Steve, as I say this to our viewers out there, if you're struggling with this, like our goal here is not to create guilt and shame, right? You did this to yourself. What I guess the way I would put it is this is in your control to fix. Let's look at it that way. When I think about how did we get to this place, we had help. If you're watching this and you're struggling with your weight and you have type 2 diabetes and you're overweight, it's not just a simple you did this to yourself. You had help getting there. People taught you this. They pushed on you the ideas that you may very well have followed what you were told to be good, healthy ideas. And it led to this, okay? It was mistaken ideas. And so the question is right now, am I willing to pay attention and learn a better way and do something about it? Well, am I willing to change now?
Okay, yeah, I like how you put that a lot better than how I did. So you're right and good point. So, but I have more questions. So I want to,
Uh-huh.
you know, have I want to talk to you again about some of this stuff and just what you brought up. I have questions about the next step. So, um, let's do this again, and we'll talk about some other stuff about diabetes. So, thank you, Dr. Rodney, and we'll be back and do some more on this. So, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Have a blessed day.